You know, as housing secretary, I visited 100 different communities, big and small, all across our nation. From downtown Los Angeles to rural Wisconsin to San Juan, Puerto Rico, and the Pine Ridge Reservation. And this much is clear. We have a housing affordability crisis in this country. Today, too many families are spending more than half of their income on rent. And that means that more families are doubling up, sleeping on the couches of relatives, or even sleeping on the streets. But you know what? You hardly ever hear about that in politics. That's going to change. We will invest in housing that's affordable to the middle class and to the poor. And I know that we can turn things around.
A person working a full-time job in this nation at minimum wage still lives in poverty. It's a normalcy that's crept into this country where in every county, there is not one county in America where a person making minimum wage can afford a two-family home.
How many people in here worry about the rising cost of housing? Yeah, a lot of hands, right? So here's the deal. New construction in America has moved to the high end. So if you're rich, there's a lot of housing opportunities. But if you're middle class, working poor, or poor, what's basically happened is there hasn't been much new housing coming in. The government has backed out from what it was doing. And the consequence is housing is deteriorating, and at the same time, the price is going up. So what can we do about it? I'll tell you exactly what we can do about it. We can build 3.2 million new housing units across this country. Urban, rural, we can do this.
You live in a really high-cost area, and it's really hard. I mean, we have an affordable housing crisis in this country. And I'm sure you know, based on where you live, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. It's another thing we need to do is we need to put more resources behind affordable housing. I introduced a bipartisan affordable housing bill as part of comprehensive housing finance reform that would put about another $6 billion, it was bipartisan, put another $6 billion out in the communities for affordable housing. So I think things like making housing more affordable, creating kind of a universal health care system, doubling the earned income tax credit, right? That's an agenda for working families.
You're here in Mississippi, you're focusing on housing for people who are struggling. You have a plan to try to tackle that. You say it's going to help lower rent. How does that work?
So I have a proposal to build about 3 million new housing units across America.
When we are in the White House, we will attack the problem of urban gentrification and build the affordable housing this country desperately needs.
On the issue of affordable housing and rent, I'm proposing that if folks are paying more than 30% of their income in rent plus utilities, they should get up to a $6,000 tax credit so they can afford to get through each month. I'm proposing that no American family should have to work more, and no person should have to work more than one job to be able to put food on the table and pay the bills.
Yeah.
And we'll work to make sure every American has a safe, decent, and affordable place to live in this country.
The idea is that we need to make a real investment in housing. In the same way that we think about health care as a basic human right, having a decent and safe place to live should be a basic human right.
The Rent Relief Act says that if you spend more than 30% of your income on rent and utilities, you'll get a portion of that money back. It's that straightforward. This is America, and I believe every family deserves the security of being able to keep a roof over their head.
I believe that we can build a country where no one is forgotten, no one is left behind.
So there's a lot we need to do. Certainly as president, I would invest in trying to increase the supply of affordable housing, because right now there's a lot of NIMBYism where a lot of cities are like, hey, I love the idea of affordable housing, but if you try and build it around my rich people, then they'll get very upset, so I don't want to do it. So what we have to do is we have to lift some of the zoning restrictions on construction of affordable housing, and that would be a priority of mine as president.